It sounds really similar to what John's saying. However, John and Jesus did not compare notes before John releases this. So I like to just mention that it's one of those things that we say, same spirit, all right? When we say all the time, oh, this person's over here saying this and this person, same spirit. So Jesus and John were obviously operating under the same Spirit of God. All right, so who is John the Baptist? Before we jump into this, well, we know he's Jesus' cousin. We know that he was filled with the Spirit from birth. I love the story where Mary goes to visit her cousin Elizabeth, and it says, whoop, he jumps in the womb, and the two come together. A little information about John that's really important to understand this context. He actually was in line. His father, Zechariah, was a priest who was on duty when the angel came to him and said, John was going to be born. That means that John was in line to become a priest. And John passed up the priesthood. That's like saying, my daddy was a doctor and I'm in line to become a doctor, but I'm not going to become a doctor. Like in this culture, we would go, you're crazy, right? Because doctors, lawyers, they have high places of honor. In the Jewish culture, the priesthood was the highest honor, and John wrecked the family bus, right? By not following in his daddy's footsteps. All right, that was unheard of. If your daddy was a priest, you were a priest. That's how it went. And John said, there's something greater, and I am, Isaiah 40, I am the voice of my happen-to-be cousin, which is why I love that God connected them. But anyways, I think that's really interesting to point out, considering what we're about to talk about, the friend of the bridegroom. So John, unlike his dad, he goes a different direction and just becomes a wild man. He's like one of my heroes. I love John the Baptist. He does things unconventionally. I like to think that we're a bunch of John the Baptists, just kind of wild people, right? That people might scratch their heads about sometimes. But I like to imagine that we are like forerunners. We are modern day forerunners preparing the way for the Lord. All right. So who was John? Biblically, if you go back to chapter 1, John, the Apostle John, he says there was a man sent from God. His name was John. This man came as a witness to bear witness of the light. That is, that all through him might believe. So this is in John 1, 6-9. He was not the light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which gives light. There's a lot of lights in there, John. Mm-hmm. Gives light to every man who was coming, and he was coming into the world. So that is John. Just give you a quick background of John the Baptist. So in chapter 3, where we pick up in verse 22, we've gone through chapter 1, which is like the calling of John the Baptist, baptism of Jesus. In chapter 2, the first sign and wonder that's performed that grabs people's attention, the water to wine. Jen talked about the clearing of the temple last week, which really stirred things up in the religious world at that time. And so people are talking. The popularity of this Jesus of Nazareth in chapter 3 is rising. Right? John called him the Word of God that became flesh, and his popularity, or at least curiosity, is on the rise. So through personal contact with this high-ranking official, Nicodemus, which is the first half of chapter 3, the water that's been made into wine in chapter 2, and these rumors that this cousin of John the Baptist is coming to the forefront